Is the Prime Minister planning to reform the NHS? A leaked document reveals potential plans for a reduced role for the private sector, with the Health Secretary given more direct control. New cases of the South African coronavirus variant leads to an extension of mobile testing in England. Thousands of people take to the streets of Myanmar in protest against this week's military coup. And a Scottish stunner. Wild celebrations as Scotland claim their first win at Twickenham in nearly 4 decades with Six Nations victory over England. Hello, very good evening to you. A leaked document has revealed that Boris Johnson is considering a reform of the NHS in England. The changes could see a reduced role for the private sector and sweep away changes introduced by David Cameron's government in 2012. NHS commissioners would no longer be required to invite private companies to bid to run services, and there would be more focus on hospitals and social care services working together to improve patient care. Our health correspondent Catherine De Costa reports.
An ageing population brings with it the challenge of providing more complex care. Hospital beds can often be tied up waiting for a care package to support elderly patients at home.
I think the devil will be in the detail.
Many health professionals feel controversial changes made nearly a decade ago left health and care services fragmented.
I don't think you'll find anyone in the NHS who won't be very pleased to see the back of competition rules. It's really got in the way of working effectively across the health and social care landscape. We all work better when we work cooperatively, and we've seen that during the pandemic. I think where people's reservations will be is about ministers having a much higher oversight and say in what happens in the NHS, and they haven't always shown that they have the expertise to do that.
In 2012, under the Cameron government, Lord Lansley handed the control and finances of the NHS to NHS England, with an annual strategy set by the government. It meant that NHS services were bought for patients by GP groups, including from private providers. The new proposals roll back on much of this and will allow ministers to more tightly control how the NHS works, as well as deliver public health and social care plans.
The idea of greater integration.
But health campaigners aren't convinced.
This government has been more dependent than ever before on the private sector during the pandemic. We've had private sector brought in to test and trace. We've had private sector brought in to run laboratories parallel to the NHS. We've got a 4-year plan now to use private hospitals while NHS beds in large numbers remain closed and out of use. So this isn't a government that's been looking to marginalise the private sector.
But one former health secretary supports the plans and wish he'd been able to get a grip on social care.
The thing that I didn't manage to do, which I tried to do, which I think is the next really important step, is a 10-year plan and a sustained funding increase for the social care sector, because that goes hand in hand with the NHS. We need to be much better at looking after people at home.
The Department of Health and Social Care said it was rightly considering where changes need to be made, with more details still to come. But Labour's questioned the logic in making big changes during a national crisis, when services are already at breaking point. Catherine De Costa, BBC News.
The new chair of the Vaccine Task Force, Dr Clive Dick, says he's very optimistic the UK will meet its target of offering a first coronavirus jab to all over 50s by May. Almost 11.5 million people have now received their first jab, but some, particularly in those in ethnic minority communities, remain hesitant, as our Community Affairs correspondent Adina Campbell reports.
This vaccination hub at the Royal London Hospital has been up and running for almost 6 weeks. And it's non-stop, with staff putting jabs into hundreds of arms each day.
Any history of problems with bleeding or bruising at all?
One of them is Martin Griffiths, a consultant surgeon, whose day job normally involves treating trauma victims with severe wounds. But now he's part of the vaccination effort. He's seen firsthand the disproportionate impact of coronavirus on people from Black, Asian and other ethnic minority groups.
There's a lot of anxiety out in the community about coronavirus and the vaccination, about its speed, about whether it works or not, and a lot of misinformation on particularly prominently social media about that. And I think it's important that people get the opportunity to ask questions and have their concerns answered by trusted individuals.
This government video is one way of spreading the vaccination message on social media. People from these communities are up to 4 times more likely to die from coronavirus than white people. But there's growing evidence and research which shows they're more reluctant to be vaccinated.
We have to trust that, scientists have done what they should be doing. Government, and everybody has done their job correctly, and they've put this out there.
They've had a lot of misconception, especially within the Bangladeshi community. It's more to do with not getting the information in the language that they need it, or if they've got the misconceptions, where they come from.
NHS staff are giving jabs from more than 1,500 sites across the country. This is one of the busiest vaccination hubs in London, and at the moment it's running twice a week, where up to 700 people a day are given a jab here.
That is you, vaccinated.
And for those still in doubt,
we are not authority, we are people as well, and we want to help our community get better. So yes, please ask us questions. We'll give you the answers and tell you the truth, and we can move forward from there.
in an effort to get more people vaccinated, the government has now started to publish ethnicity data. And it's hoped these clinics will end up attracting the most hard-to-reach, hesitant communities. Adina Campbell, BBC News.
The latest government figures show there were 18,262 new coronavirus infections recorded in the latest 24-hour period. It means, on average, the number of new cases reported per day in the last week is 19,107. Across the UK, 29,326 people are in hospital with coronavirus, including suspected cases in Wales. 828 deaths were reported. That's people who died within 28 days of a positive COVID-19 test. It means the average number of deaths announced every day in the past week is now 932. The total number of deaths across the UK is now 112,092. The UK's programme of mass vaccinations continues, of course. 494,163 people have had their first dose of one of the 3 approved COVID-19 vaccines in the latest 24-hour period, taking the overall number of people who've had their first jab to nearly 11.5 million. Mobile testing for areas in England with new cases of the South African coronavirus variant is being expanded. At the beginning of the week, surge testing began, which included door-to-door visits after cases were not connected to foreign travel. Today, testing began in parts of Worcestershire, Bristol and South Gloucestershire after a small number of cases were discovered there. Well, our health correspondent, Catherine, is here with us now, and there are new developments on this tonight. Catherine.
Yes, the FT is reporting some early data that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine doesn't appear to be protecting against mild to moderate symptoms caused by the South African variant. Now, it comes just a day after the pharmaceutical company said that the vaccine is effective at protecting against the UK variant. There are some caveats, though. This is preliminary findings from a small study of about 2,000 people in South Africa, and it's not been peer-reviewed. There's been no comment from AstraZeneca or Oxford University on this study. But crucially, it's being reported that the vaccine still seems to be effective in preventing deaths and hospital admissions. Now, yesterday, the head of AstraZeneca said it wouldn't be surprising if levels of protection dip with the South Africa variant, given what we've seen in early results from other vaccines. Developers are already working on tweaking their vaccines to cope with new emerging variants. It's something that already happens with the flu jab, and it may be in future that we need to have a booster shot each year.
OK, Catherine, thank you. Well, tomorrow morning, Andrew Marr will be joined by the architect of the Oxford vaccine, Professor Sarah Gilbert, and the vaccine minister, Nadeem Zahawi. That's 9 a.m. here on BBC One to discuss that. Myanmar has seen the biggest day of protest since the military took power in a coup on Monday. Thousands of workers and young activists took to the streets in the city of Yangon as military rulers implemented a near-total internet shutdown. The protesters are calling for the release of those detained by the army, including the elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Our correspondent Jonathan Head reports.
5 days after the military takeover, and people are testing the limits. This group included factory workers from the western suburbs of Yangon, but led by young political activists, shouting their condemnation of the new regime and their support for the ousted government. The crowd grew as it headed towards the downtown area of Myanmar's largest city, where a line of police blocked their way, offering a perfect backdrop for the Hunger Games salute that's become the symbol of popular defiance in this region. It's hard to gauge how much of the country shares this sense of outrage, but it's a fair bet this coup is widely unpopular. The protest was broadcast as it happened on a dozen or more social media pages, but the military began shutting down the internet and blocking popular apps, so that through the day we watched Myanmar slipping back towards the digital dark age of a decade ago. Protests have taken place outside Myanmar too, with Aung San Suu Kyi in custody once more. These are painful echoes of a wretched past. Are Myanmar's generals really prepared to return to the bad old days? Perhaps even they don't know yet what they'll do after inflicting such a blow to their country's democratic hopes. Jonathan Head, BBC News.
Here, extra police officers have been deployed in South London and given additional stop and search powers after a series of stabbings in the past 24 hours. One man was killed during a fight at a block of flats in Croydon last night. Police are also investigating 4 other incidents that happened yesterday evening in the Croydon, Wandsworth and Chislehurst areas. Detectives say the attacks are not linked. 4 people have been arrested. Severe weather threatens disruption to parts of the country, with snow expected to hit the southeast overnight and gale force winds anticipated. Snow and ice warnings already exist for much of England, Scotland and eastern Wales, and from early tomorrow morning a Met Office amber snow warning, meaning travel issues and power cuts are likely, and that's in place for parts of Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex and Kent. It's time for the sport with Lizzie Greenwood-Hughes, who's at the BBC Sports Centre. Hi, Lizzie.
Hello, Kate. Thank you. Good evening. Scotland pulled off a major shock on the opening day of the Six Nations Championship by beating favourites England at Twickenham for the first time in 38 years. Our correspondent Jo Wilson watched their 11-6 victory.
Scotland at Twickenham, history makers, dressed for the times in a stadium uniquely empty. And that trophy, what's missing there? Scotland's name. Never Six Nations winners. Not yet. England were stretched soon and often. Scotland go for space, to the wing, to the ball. How close was that? Yeah, well, try again. This time they passed the ball to Duhan van der Merwe, who came to Edinburgh via Pretoria. Tried to stop him. England couldn't. Scotland led. At half-time, they were 2 points ahead. England's problem was that they couldn't get near the ball. When Scotland had it, they kept it. England's coach was in a hurry to do something, but his players were running into Scotland, into trouble, running out of time. A last grab of the ball and a kick into touch, then hands to the skies for the first time since 1983. Winners here.
We can't look back because we can't change what's happened in the past, but we're very much in control of what happens in the future, and we wanted to write our own little bit of history as individuals and as a collective. And today we've done exactly that. We've got one hell of a happy changing room.
One regret? Well, imagine the reaction of the Scottish fans had they been filling those empty seats. Well, no matter. Enjoy the images of a famous, deserved victory distantly. Jo Wilson, BBC News, Twickenham.
Last year's runners-up, France, looked in ominously good form as they swept aside Italy, scoring 7 tries in Rome to win 50 points to 10. There was another remarkable innings from England cricket captain Joe Root, who hit a double century in the first test against India in Chennai. England closed day 2 on 555 for 8, as Adam Wilde reports.
Smiles and celebration. It's a sight English cricket fans are getting rather used to. Joe Root had already passed 100 when this morning's masterclass began, a study in calm control. If that was the foundation, Ben Stokes brought the strokes. Those empty stands make an inviting target. Still, how big a score were England actually aiming for? India running out of ideas. Well, almost. Tempt Stokes into another mighty heave. India clinging on, just about. With his partner falling short, the captain wasn't about to follow. This brought up his 200 in his 100th Test match, the first player ever to do that. Root reached 218 before he finally faltered. Congratulations from opposition and teammates. All knew they'd seen something special.
Yeah, he's in phenomenal form, making things look very, very easy. And he's got an answer and an option for everything that's thrown at him. And yeah, he's just a delight to watch him at the moment.
England batted out the day, now firmly in command. Joe Root even tidying up after. Their inspirational captain setting the standard till the very end. Adam Wilde, BBC News.
Match of the day and sports scene are coming up later, so avert your attention if you don't want to know what happened yet, because some of the results are coming now. Manchester United missed out on the chance of going level with their City rivals at the top of the Premier League after giving away a 2-goal lead to draw 3-3 with Everton at Old Trafford. Celtic beat Motherwell in the Scottish Premiership, but they're still 20 points behind leaders Rangers. Hibernians strengthened their grip on third place after a 2-0 victory over their nearest rivals, Aberdeen. And that's it from me. Back to you, Kate.
Lizzie, thank you so much. And that's all from me and the team here. So for now, a very good night. Bye-bye.